What do you do with a ketubah, or Jewish wedding contract, after a divorce? That question took on urgency after my partner Naomi and I moved from her home in Westchester County, New York, to a condo north of Boston. Storage space for my movie poster-sized ketubah shrank from an overflowing basement to a closed closet in a wire cage in our building's parking garage. Before our wedding, my ex-wife and I bought the ketubah at a Manhattan Judaica retailer, then placed it in an ornate frame that made it even grander. Beyond its religious significance as a prenuptial agreement, the ketubah symbolized our commitment and became a bold Jewish statement for our Brooklyn apartment. The ketubah stayed with me after our divorce, a visual distillation of every emotion connected with hope, love, faith, conflict, and alienation. I've always obsessively collected mementos of major life events, so of course I held fast to it. The ketubah occupied a mental space somewhere between a sacred relic and Poe's raven, forever croaking nevermore whenever I pondered its associations on a midnight dreary. The ketubah decorated my apartments for 15 years until I moved in with Naomi. Art covered the walls of her home, and she understandably wasn't too keen for me to hang the ketubah anywhere, so I stored it in a home office closet. With space at a premium in the condo, I finally decided to deal with what I call the broken ketubah. I checked with rabbis, artists, and synagogue administrators about storage or repurposing programs, but came up snake eyes. I was left with the dispiriting online consensus. Let your kids do art projects on it, burn it, bury it, whatever. Well, I finally decided I was framing my question in a way bound to produce disappointment. I wanted other people to take the ketubah to rid me of this troublesome document. That led nowhere. The more useful question, what could I do with it, given my ambivalence about keeping, hiding, or disposing of the ketubah? An idea dawned on me when I read about an ancient shopping list from the Cairo Geniza, a repository in a synagogue with 400,000 fragments of ancient documents. The National Library of Israel wrote, this particular list included ordinary ingredients like sumac and tahini, as well as olive and sesame oil. When researchers turned the list over, however, it became far less commonplace when they realized the list was written on the back of a fragment of a torn-up get, which is a Jewish divorce document. What you do at the other end of a marriage. This repurposing of a Jewish document felt right. What if I reworked the ketubah into journal illustrations or covers? I'd be proactive rather than sitting on my duff waiting for the ketubah cavalry to rescue me. I hoisted the ketubah from the shadowy depths of the closet. It looked as fresh as it did on the rainy night in Brooklyn when the radiant bride and confident groom signed it. Naomi, an artist who creates her own sketchbooks, suggested using pieces of the ketubah to create a book where I could write on the blank back pages, kind of like the shopping list. Buoyed by her enthusiasm, I was all in. With a screwdriver and pliers, I pried up the sharp metal staples that held two cardboard backings in place. I was careful to avoid snagging my finger on the staples and physically bleeding over this marital artifact. With the cardboard gone, surely the ketubah would be ready for our creative attention. I'd roll it up for safekeeping until the next phase. But, as the Yiddish phrase says, der Mensch tracht und Gott lacht. Man plans and God laughs. We discovered the ketubah had been laminated to a foam core backing. Removing a poster from foam core is possible, but most likely I would destroy the ketubah. I had images of it bursting into flames if I tried to melt the glue with a hairdryer. Naomi observed, there's no way you're getting that off. The broken ketubah is back in the closet. Liberated from its frame and glass, it is smaller and much lighter, less emotionally looming. Taking action gave me a sense of relief. Once we get a large cutting board, we'll start the creative dissection. Maybe I'll make a ketubah-themed notebook or bookmarks or coffee table coasters. Or maybe a puzzle where the pieces never quite fit together, no matter how hard I try. Thank you.